There are over 1 million Commonwealth War Graves around the world that commemorate the men and women that died in the First and Second World War. They can be found in 23,000 different locations in over 150 countries and territories on every continent except for Antarctica. 46 of them are here at Aberdeen's Nellfield cemetery. Large family monuments are a fairly common feature of historic cemeteries throughout the Commonwealth, many of them dating back to the early 19th century. The contrast between them and the relatively modest 20th century Commonwealth War Graves is noticeable. They are simple, uniform, and usually consisting of only the details they are required to give. We have a lot of pride for our service personnel, particularly those that gave their lives in the First and Second World Wars. So why are these monuments so understated, so modest? The standard design was adopted to display a unified image to the public. Their distinctive shape and style is easy to recognize. They convey the stories and sacrifices of those they memorialize, promoting a culture of remembrance. It's also a subtle reminder that regardless of rank and status, we're all equal once we're dead and buried. While there is some variation depending on location, this style is the most common, and military monuments of other nations follow similar traditions. You may have seen something similar to these, or perhaps you're used to something a little different. Either way, drop a comment and let me know where and what they're like. The monuments of Commonwealth War Graves have pretty straightforward details. Regimental number, rank, initials, name, honours, forces badge or insignia, date of death, age, and a simple religious emblem and epitaph if desired. Sometimes not all of these details were known, and possibly the next of kin couldn't be reached, so they had to just work with what they had. With the mass casualties of World War I and World War II, there was a demand for space-saving and efficient burials and memorials. Commonwealth War Graves not only serve as respectful and dignified memorials, but they're also practical and efficient. They're easy to create and maintain. Many memorials end up neglected as time passes and the living move on. Rather than becoming the sole responsibility of their respective families, they're cared for by the collective society. Most military memorials commemorate a single person, but some might commemorate 2, 3, or even multiple people if their identities were unknown. An example of this can be seen at Nellfield Cemetery on the memorial of Tom and Richardson. They were both killed in the First World War, but it's unclear whether these two servicemen had a direct connection. Archival information reveals little about Private Tom. However, the archives note that Petty Officer Richardson's wife, Wilhelmina, advised on the religious iconography of the memorial and the epitaph, which reads, "Rest in peace." 50 years later, Wilhelmina was memorialized on the stone sitting to the left. She, or perhaps the family, even used a similar and simplistically designed stone to match. In contrast to military memorials, civilian memorials often reflect personal grief and a sense of patrimony. They might emphasize the wealth and religion of the family or individual. On the other hand, war graves tend to demonstrate unity, framing death as a sacrifice for the nation, which arguably is a form of patrimony in itself. Some might even find themselves memorialized on both a military and a family monument. The reasons for that can vary. Their military monument might be unknown, far from home, or perhaps they are one of the many forever missing in action who are memorialized by way of the monuments dedicated to the unknown soldier. Including their name on a family memorial would provide families with a single location where they can be symbolically together, providing the living with a place to pay their respects and work through their collective grief. Before the First World War, military monuments were somewhat different. Officers might find themselves with grand monuments, though not always deservingly so, and for the most, enlisted men were pretty much forgotten. The Commonwealth War Graves Commission revolutionised that. They sought to ensure that each soldier, sailor and airman was memorialised and honoured equally. In life, they wore uniforms and served as part of a collective, and their memorials in death reflect that unity. A century later, I wonder whether it's time to rethink the way that we memorialise and commemorate the lives of our fallen comrades. Perhaps it's enough, or perhaps they deserve more. Social and cultural practices change. The old adapts or makes way for the new. But as we say of the fallen, they shall not grow old.